Welcome back, reader. Thanks for joining us again at Lessons in the Homeroom and being dedicated to growing as a reader. This is part 3 of our close reading episodes using biographies. Again, if you haven't joined us for the first 2 episodes, please go back, pause this video, and go back to view 1 and 2 so you too can get a deeper understanding of the story that we're focusing on called Salt in His Shoes. Michael Jordan, In Pursuit of a Dream. So this is a great book that we've now read twice, and this is going to be our time to read it a third time. And in a close read, we continue to add, and now you can see I have added one final thing that we can do as we read this book again. This time as we read, we're going to really gather the evidence from the text, and then in some way we're going to use that evidence. This is where deeper comprehension strategies are brought in, like making inference. Today, we're going to talk about cause and effect. But if you don't have a deep understanding through close reading of this story, comprehension strategies are really hard to use. So if you realize that that's an area that you want to focus on is comprehension, definitely close read anything. Let me tell you a story. When I was in college learning how to be a teacher, we do a lot of lessons about how a child's brain learns and grows, and a lot of that content about the brain was really challenging because I didn't know anything about the brain before. I didn't study the brain, and quite often I didn't think that I'd be learning so much about the development of a brain as I did learning in school. So it's really interesting that when you have a subject that you know a lot about, comprehension gets a little bit easier. Like if you love dinosaurs, you already know a lot about dinosaurs because you've been reading things a lot and you read the books often. But for me, when I was learning about the brain, I didn't know much about the brain before. So when you start to learn new things or you read harder texts, that's when rereading multiple times will help you better gather evidence from the text so you can use that evidence on deeper thinking stuff. Okay, readers? So I'm going to go ahead and change our board behind me. So while I'm doing that, go ahead, grab, if you have a copy of Salt in His Shoes, grab your copy, grab your book. Also, don't forget one of my favorite things. I found these new Post-it notes. So grab some Post-it notes and a pen. I'll be back in a flash. Have out your supplies ready to go, and let's talk about cause and effect. So cause and effect is 2 parts of the story that kind of link. But again, you really have to do this in your advanced stages of a close reading. So what is cause? Cause is what happens first. What's effect? Well, the effect is what happens after the cause. The cause explains why something happens. The effect tells what happens as a result. So we usually put in some causes together, like what happened in the person's life that helped them do special things. There might be 1 or 2 of them. To then take this information, take the evidence of what happened in Michael Jordan's life, and think deeply. Well, how did that affect him? What did that do to help him become so special? So cause and effect is a really deep thinking strategy that we can use, and it works best after we've read on the 3rd time of our close reading. So as we read together and we look through Salt in His Shoes, let's really think about the things that we've noted in this story. At the end, we're going to put those ideas together and come up with, well, how did that help him become so special? All right, so here we go. Let's go back and quickly refresh. Our last episode was on a summary. So as we look at this book, before I jump in the 3rd time, I'm going to review that summary. Okay, so the story is about a boy named Michael Jordan. Sometimes looking back in the pictures for the picture clue really helps. He really liked going to the park with his brothers and playing basketball, but Michael felt really down on himself because he was the smallest kid on the court, and there was this bully that always picked on him, and he felt as though he lost the game for the team, and he was really upset with it, and he just wanted to become taller. So Mom said salt in his shoes would help with that. And he waited and he waited, and he decided, I'm not going to go to the practices anymore with my brothers at the park. I'm going to practice at home. And he wore those dedicated salt shoes in church, and he practiced all by himself. He didn't grow, and he got kind of deflated on that. And I remember he had a really good conversation with his dad that really brought back his determination to go play again with the big kids. And so he went back one day, back to the park with his brothers, and he had an opportunity to play. Sure enough, Michael makes a big shot against his opponents, makes that big shot for the game-winning point. And on the last page, one of my favorites is he really worked hard, and because of that, Michael grew into be a 6'6" basketball superstar. So this story was really great, and what we need to do now is we really need to think about some of the things that the effect was Michael became a magical basketball player. But what are some of the things that caused that to happen? He just didn't wake up, we know, from becoming this wonderful basketball player. He wasn't always amazing. He wasn't always perfect. So that happened after what? So I'm going to change the poster one more time to leave it blank. And I ask while we do this break that you go get a piece of paper, because we're going to make a T-chart. And we're going to brainstorm together on the causes that helped create Michael Jordan as a superstar. So grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and we're going to create a T-chart. All right, so now we're going to be making our own T-chart, making sure we fully understand the causes and effects that we have discovered as we were deeply reading Salt in His Shoes, Michael Jordan in Pursuit of a Dream. So here's our T-chart. And what I like to do in my notebook, as you can see, I have cause in purple and effect in blue. I like using multiple different colors because it helps my eyes better see the differences and what we're really, really focusing on. So in your reading notebook, if you have extra colors around the house, or if you want to just use a pencil, that's fine too. But here's a great way to really think and highlight purple as our cause and blue as our effect. So we're going to be thinking about what happened in Michael's life, some examples that it showed in our story, and how did that affect him and help him grow? Help him so much to grow into this very influential person. So what happened in Michael's life is going to be our causes, and how did that affect him and help him to grow is going to be our effects. So as we look back through the story, I want to just start at the very beginning, because one of the things that really made a big impact on Michael right here was not necessarily this guy, Mark, his bully, right? What happened to Michael that really launched the story into developing as a character? What was the common worry and problem that Michael experienced when he played basketball in the field? So I'm thinking about a cause. One thing that caused Michael a lot of problems was Michael was much smaller than the other people he played with. So I'm going to write that down. Michael was much smaller than the others. And I remember that because one of our vocabulary words that I remember seeing in there that I didn't know was the word opponents. So Michael was much smaller than the others. Okay, so let's think about that is something that happened in his life. So because that happened in his life, how did that affect him? How did that help him grow? Well, Michael thought the effect was Michael thought this is what caused So because Michael was much smaller than the others, that made him think that this was what caused them not to win all those games. He always kept saying, well, if I was taller, I would win more games. So this is a big impact. So he was relating his size to winning basketball games. And we know it because we're experts at this book. We know later on how much this really did affect Michael. All right, let's think about another idea. Going back to our book, so Michael's mom talks to him about putting salt in his shoes, and he is holding that basketball so much. Okay, so let's go to this one. Here he is. He's now wearing his shoes in church. He's wearing them during his practices. This is a really big deal. All right, so he does this and he does this, and then I remember these 2 pages. I want to use these 2 pages as one of my causes. Did anything happen? And how did he feel? Sometimes using the pictures can really help us too. So based on this, let's think about what happened in Michael's life. He was wearing those shoes all the time for months, okay? And he didn't grow. That's a big part that happened in Michael's life. Let's write it down. After wearing his shoes with salt for a long time, he still did not grow. That's really important because that was a big moment that happened in Michael's life. All right, so because that happened, what was the effect? How did that affect him and how did that help him grow? So we can think now back to this picture. This is what happened after. Remember, the cause is first, the effect is after. So what happened because of him not growing? Well, I was thinking about how Michael felt at that moment. That was a big moment for him. He could have almost given up, and that's what we should write. Michael became very sad and was about ready to give up. Let's get it on our chart. All right, so because after doing what he was told, put salt in his shoes and nothing happening, Michael became very sad and thought about giving up on basketball altogether. Did this help him grow? Well, we know because we've been experts at our book that yes, that made a huge impact on him because in this moment, something major happened, okay? So I think we should now look at the end of our book to really make another cause and effect relationship that really demonstrates from here, where did it go? How did he become that 6'6" basketball superstar that we already know about? So let's go back to our story to find another thing that happened in Michael's life. All right. I'm just going to turn the page because this was a very important happening. Okay, so because Michael was so sad and he thought about giving up, we know that the next 2 pictures are telling us that his father stepped in. So what happened in Michael's life? His father came and gave him a pep talk, right? He talked and reminded him again about all of his hard work because he not only wore the salt in his shoes, he practiced a ton. He practiced a ton, and that was a big happening in Michael's life. Think about if that didn't happen, would he have become a better superstar? So let's write that important part down about his father reminding him of all of his hard work. All right, so Michael's father encouraged him to try again because of his hard work. Because Michael, day in and day out, did not go to the park with his brothers. He was shooting hoops. He was working on his moves. He was really working hard at home for months. All right, how did that affect him? How did that help him grow? So, of course, we know that after that, Michael was like, all right, let's go. I'm going back to the park. He got an opportunity to play. He was willing to take that game-winning shot. And in this moment, we know from reading that book that he got that game-winning shot. Now I ask you, reader, to dive deeper into the effect. Yes, because he practiced, and yes, they won that one game. But let's go deeper. How did that moment really affect him and really help him grow? It wasn't just that one basket. It was like, yes, we won one game. What was the big lesson here that Michael learned in that moment that that ball went through that hoop? What lesson did Michael learn from working through being smaller, thinking that it was because he was losing, from going to wearing his shoes, thinking that was going to work, and realizing that he almost gave up because it wasn't working? But then his father reminded him of all of his hard work and gave him courage. All of these things put together helped Michael become and truly affected him with a big lesson, a big effect that made him grow more than his size. Right. Michael learned because of this and because of that moment. He learned that with hard work and practice, he can accomplish anything. So that's a huge effect. That's a huge life lesson that really affected Michael and made him grow. So let's wrap up this effect. This is the biggest one through the whole story, and I think it really demonstrates our deep understanding of salt in his shoes. Let's get it on our paper. Michael tried again to realize that hard work and patience works. All right, so we can see here, Michael tried again and realized that hard work and practice really works. So all in all that happened to Michael, all built up to the fact that he became a true superstar, realizing that with his hard work and practice, and we could have put patience here too, that he became a superstar. So readers, you've done some amazing work with this book, and close reading is so valuable because when you read a book multiple times, you can go this deep into understanding. There is a purpose from every author as they write this story. And in this story, we really could see the causes and the effects that it had on Michael Jordan. And we too can really learn lessons when you go deep into a story. So readers, thank you for dedicating yourself to learning all about close reading with one of my new favorite books, Salt in His Shoes. I ask that you continue to do this strategy, close reading, cause and effect, and all of the other tools that we learned along the way as you read any book or article that you ever want to read. These are strategies that we've done through biographies, but they can be applied to anything you read. So readers, congratulations on wrapping up our biographies unit. Continue to do your hard work and grow as readers. Thank you.